Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of the UGA Sports Call-In Show presented by UGAsports.com. I'm your host, Paul Meharry, joined by my co-host, Jason Butt, and always Ben Choppy Bachman with the nice fish tank in the back, very healthy fish tank in the back, folks. And we've got football to talk about, guys. There was some fall camp. We had interviews with players. We had interviews with Kirby Smart. We'll dive into that. And then also, I kind of want to dive into this conference realignment, guys. It was crazy for me because I was at the beach. I was trying to keep up with my phone as best I could. I finally found a graphic of where all these teams are going, and Jason said it best pre-show. He said the Pac-12 is dead. So we'll get to that. But before we do all that, you know how we do, guys. If you are new here or if you're returning, we'd love to know where you're watching us from. So put that into the YouTube comments. We'll shout you out on the screen. And as always, if you want to join the show, you can click that link in the description. It'll put you into the waiting room and we'll bring you on. Also, we can have your comments on as well. So we can put your comments on the screen. If you have any questions, I know there's probably some questions about recruiting with KJ Bolden and Nathan Frazier announcing earlier today. So we will answer those as best we can. It was crazy. The KJ Bolden commitment ceremony was one for the memory books. So we will touch on that a little bit too. Jason, before we get going though, as always, how was your weekend, my man?
Pretty good. Went and saw Shaky Graves. I don't know if y'all are familiar with his music, but very talented musician.
I thought that was going to be a movie. So
no. Trampled by Turtles was there too. So
I do know Trampled by Turtles.
Yeah. So that was fun. I don't know how much you told our viewers about 2 weeks ago. I had a bout with shingles, and I am thankfully past that. I don't recommend to anybody out there getting that.
Which eye was it?
Left eye, so right here. Dude, it swelled all the way shut, and it was a pain like no other. That's, I don't need to bore or gross people out from there.
I had a few folks, I did tell them you had shingles in the eye. I had a few folks say that they knew some folks that had that as well. So
it was brutal. Brutal. Thankfully, we're here.
Ben, ready for some football? How was your weekend?
Good. I mean, I just had an elite dinner, so I am feeling good. I had some chicken and rice, and then in the summer, especially on the weekends, the corn on the cob in the summer. Oh my! I ate like 3 ears of corn. Oh, love me some corn on the cob. So I've eaten good today, so I'm feeling good.
Love it.
Your Mets got swept, Paul. I feel bad for you. So I enjoyed watching them get swept today, and your boy Frank the Tank, your best friend.
I do not like the Mets at all.
That's your squadron. So overall, the weekend was pretty good. Back at the family's house today. Obviously, they don't have a garage door that works. They don't even have a window in their bedroom because it got smashed from a lightning strike. So it's, a little bit beaten up around these parts, but overall feeling good.
Well, that's good. So the Georgia Bulldogs are also feeling good, guys, and we're in fall camp. So if you're not a member of UGAsports.com, now's the time to do so. You can sign up for $33. We've got the links over on Twitter. And fall camp is kicking into high gear. Jason, what are your first kind of impressions from the outside looking in of this fall camp?
Well, it's interesting. You want to see progress. I don't know how much more progress there is to make. When you're coming off back-to-back national championships, of course, quarterback is what everybody's going to be looking at. You're breaking in a new quarterback. I think there's some questions in the secondary that people want to see answered. You're not getting a whole lot of answers yet when it comes to quarterback. Kirby Smart doing all the right things, trying to keep it as publicly a competition as much as possible. I think we're all expecting, and it would make sense for Carson Beck to be the guy when it comes to week one. Not a terribly hard schedule, especially out the gate. And so you can allow for him to essentially go in, for the staff not to worry. But really, my early impressions, until we really get a good sense of, I guess from the scrimmages that they do in the preseason, I think we'll know more then. But really, it's just all eyes on Carson Beck for me to see if he can be that guy to step up for with Stetson Bennett now. 25 years of college done, and now off to the NFL.
Hey, speaking of Stetson, not to rail the podcast and the show any, but Stetson's showing up on the old Twitter. Well, I guess you call it X. I don't know what you. I'm going to
X now.
It's still Twitter to me. So he's showing up on the old Twitter, slinging that thing around. Threw a nice little touchdown pass to Cooper Kupp. Would not be surprised. I mean, with Matthew Stafford, God bless him. I think we know he's very injury prone. I would not be surprised if we saw Stetson actually start an NFL game this year, which is something that I think a lot of people 2 years ago would have absolutely laughed at. I mean, hell, even last year, honestly.
I think there's a decent chance he starts games with Stafford's injury history. And wait, Paul, this is also, still on Georgia, but did you see George Pickens' Georgia Mount Rushmore?
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
One, Mount Rushmore has 4 people, not 5.
It does.
So that's what I was curious about. But the names on his list.
Who are his names?
Outside of maybe Chubb, I don't know how you put any of these guys on the list.
Who were the folks for the who were the guys on his Mount Rushmore for the folks that didn't see it?
It was A.J. Green, Matthew Stafford, Knowshon Marino, Thomas Davis, and Nick Chubb.
Well, that seems to be just what he grew up with.
Yeah.
And, these guys, I think we talked about this on a recent show, how a lot of these guys don't really know the history of the team the way that a lot of the fans who grew up who'll never play for Georgia, or if they went to college and became a diehard fan and learned the history. These players have just grown up playing ball, and for a lot of them, then they end up at Georgia, and their history is what they grew up watching. So they have no idea, who. I'd be surprised. I actually wouldn't be surprised if a lot of these guys didn't know who Herschel Walker, didn't know who. You go all the way back to Sinkwich and the old days. Just the history of the program. Vince Dooley, probably a lot of them don't know who he is until they get to college. So I think
he's got a statue, so you kind of got to know that
until you get there.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. You're not growing up with these guys on TV. And so I think that's probably where George Pickens is coming from.
Also, George is just a different bird, man, and that's what I kind of like about
that
George.
Is too. Yeah,
because Herschel and Champ Bailey both have to be on there.
But they don't have to. They don't have to because George is, a young kid. It doesn't. He never watched them.
No, I'm not saying it's idiotic. In totality, none of us would have that as our list if we were looking at it. But I understand that's what he grew up on. But I just thought it was interesting. I was more so curious why there were 5 guys on a Mount Rushmore.
Because George beats to his own drum. If he wants 5 guys on Mount Rushmore, you going to tell him it's only going to be 4 to his face? I didn't think so. Patrick O'Neal.
You gave me like 1 second to respond. So
Patrick O'Neal says, Georgia Bulldog and Atlanta Braves fan, 59 years young. This is a great time to be alive. Good deal, man. Christopher James says, go Dogs. We went from Stets packing a lip to Beck covered in tats. I did see that. That is interesting.
NIL money, man.
Yeah, you have Stetson Bennett, who, like Christopher said, packing lips on the side. That was one of my bigger tweets, was when I put it out there. He was packing a lip on the sidelines, and now you've got Carson Beck. He's tatted up on his left leg. He's got 904 for his Jacksonville area code. I think his right arm's tatted up. It's a different quarterback, but I'm curious to know how he's going to be able to get down. One thing, guys, that I did see kind of in these practice observations was, and Kirby Smart also said it too, because we've been wondering where Jalen Walker was going to fit in. And it seems like Jalen Walker, for all intents and purposes right now, is a middle linebacker. There's photos of him working out with Schumann and Pop and all the middle linebackers. So, I thought that, and I think everybody thinks that him filling in an outside backer, he's just a linebacker in general. He's one of the best 11 defenders I think you have on your team, so you have to get him on the field. Yeah. Interesting to me, though, that he is practicing with those middle linebackers and not at outside linebacker. Interesting to you guys?
No, I think he always is probably going to be an inside linebacker, except for situational times. I think that's what they brought him in. When I interviewed him, he said Glenn Schumann was his lead recruiter. He was going to play mostly inside backer, and then on third downs, a lot of the times they would rush him off the edge. That's what he basically was sold on. He's going to be Quay Walker. That's what he was sold on, and I think that's how they're going to use him. And that doesn't shock me at all, because I think long term, if he isn't elite getting after the quarterback time and time again, he has the ability to cover. And I've said this for a while. Inside linebackers that can cover are so valuable. People don't think they are, but it's one of the things when I looked at a lot of the linebackers that have came out of LSU, for example, the Devin Whites in them, they've actually struggled in the NFL because their coverage, not because they could play the run and hit and make tackles. That's what a lot of people know him for. In today's game, in the passing game, you got to be able to cover, and Jalon can. That's how versatile of a player he is. I'm not saying he's Micah Parsons, but I think they might use him in that level of a role. His role, he's not the sacks, he's not the talent, but that's how they're going to use him. He's going to be inside linebacker, but if there's situationally they have to make him pass rush, they'll do that.
To me, I look at it like this. Right now, you're looking at Smile Munden with an injury, so you need a guy like Walker to be able to step up and especially get those practice reps. You don't want your third inside linebacker moving outside full time.
Right.
That said, I think because he has that skill set, and Kirby Smart has said, this is a guy who has the ability as an inside linebacker to also rush the passer, that you can use him situationally. To me, I'm not surprised by it. It was always something that, the fact that he was getting reps and has been getting reps toward the end of last year and in the spring, that it was maybe a possibility, but definitely not a surprise. The long term, he definitely projects as an inside linebacker. And you don't know, after this year, you got two inside linebackers who will have been here for at least 3 years, who may have NFL dreams or aspirations. So there could be an opening there at to be a starting inside linebacker next year. So you don't necessarily want to just move him away from the position and then move him back, because long term at Georgia, he is definitely an inside linebacker first.
We've got a few of the regulars showing up. We've got Rhett, we've got Foster Moss, and the Dog Father. Good evening to all of you.
Andy Stowe in the chat?
Yeah, Andy's always here. Yeah.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah,
all right, I see he's in the chat.
Rhett Womack says, I know it'll be hard to sway Braylon from probably going to Oregon, but Frazier's commitment sure helps. I can see Kirby getting 2 sets of teammates in the class. Williams and JJA are studs. Ben, we haven't had a Rumors versus Facts show with Blaine Gilmer on it in a couple weeks. He's been taking care of his boys and getting them ready for school. He'll be back soon. Tell us about this recruiting weekend and kind of what's been happening with it.
Well, I can't believe that this was a thing last year. There were people who wanted Del McGee's head, which shocks me.
Whoa. Who?
Where did you hear this?
I mean, they wanted him fired. I mean, from
Who?
the Justice Lane's recruitment. If you check the vault and the vent, people are like, Del McGee's lost it. He's lost it. If you check after Justice Haynes last year, that would be not me. Why are you yelling at me when you should be yelling at some of the people that?
Because I didn't see it.
If you see some of the hate that got sent his way, I mean, when you look at it, to get Nate Frazier, to get Chauncey Bowens, to get Dwight Phillips. I've never seen them sign arguably 3 top 100 running backs in a cycle, and they just did it. I think Nate Frazier's number one.
They haven't done it yet. They've committed.
They've committed, but none of them are taking visits elsewhere. And I think with Nate Frazier, this one, and I think he admitted it now, he said, I didn't commit back in June to Georgia. But now he goes, yeah, I was, but I was lying. He committed on that multi-day unofficial. And I always felt like, from not just the intel, but when he says, I'm going to take an official visit to Georgia, and I'm saving that for a game, but I'm going to take a 3-day unofficial in June, but I'm going to take all my other officials in June. I thought that's interesting. Why is that one school getting saved? You're giving them a whole weekend in June, but you're saving your official for later. I thought that was very telling that they were able to pull that off. And I think when you look at Nate, he's the best running back in the country. And last year you got Roderick Robinson out of California. You got a running back. He's huge. We talked about it. He's a big back. This year, Nate Frazier's got speed. He's got serious speed. Dwight Phillips has speed. Chauncey Bowens is kind of a combination of the two. Great balance, great vision. You get 3 running backs who I think complement each other well. And we had this debate because running backs are big in sports media right now with the NFL contracts. Sure. And someone asked the question, when you get 3 backs, how do you use them all and how do you sell that? I think it's a positive, because if you have 2 running backs, one, it helps your roster. So obviously from a roster standpoint, there are some people who go, we want that workhorse back. I think Aaron Murray on his podcast was talking about that, about we need the workhorse back. When I said I disagree with that, you have 2-3 running backs, they keep each other fresh, and NFL teams will say they don't have as many carries on them, but the film's there. We can use them for a long time. That can help them in contract negotiations because they don't have the wear and tear. It actually will help their long-term career in the NFL. So I would use that as a selling point when people talk about when Nick Chubb said, the more they use us, even when we're good, our value deteriorates in terms of money.
Right.
Well, guess what? If you put on the film, but you're not being beat up as much, your value goes up. Your value goes up. So that's the formula. And I think when all three of these guys say, we're going to be the next Nick Chubb, Sony Michel, Todd Gurley, you can sell that to them and say, we're going to use all three of you in a different way, and we're going to keep you fresh. I think it works, and I thought that was fantastic. And also, a quick note, that is the first recruit Georgia's landed from Mater Dei out of high school ever. JT Daniels went there, but that was as a transfer. First time they landed a kid out of a top 5 high school football program in the country.
Well, there you go. And also, speaking about running backs, Kenny McIntosh kind of showing up, to your point, not so much tread, was taken off the tires, so to speak, for Kenny when he was at Georgia. He played a lot, but not really until at least his senior year. Over there showing out in Seattle. He did get hurt, though, so hopefully he comes back. That can always be a problem. I think he sprained his knee in kind of a mock game. So, it's always a problem for those guys that are 7th picks, undrafted free agents to kind of stay on the roster after that. But I've been hearing good things about Kenny up in Seattle. So it goes to your point, Ben, and you can also sell that. Dogfather says, is it crazy to compare Dwight Phillips to James Cook? I saw Dwight had their scrimmage against McEachern this past weekend. He looked pretty decent. Jed May was on scene for that, so we've got some highlights of that and everything over on UGAsports.com. I think it's a little too early right now, Dogfather, to compare those two, but very well could. They're both kind of the same, almost the same player there. We've got Web-Headed Hero saying, thank y'all for keeping me updated on CFB while living in Los Angeles. No one here knows anything about it. I saw someone in an LSU shirt yesterday, and they didn't even know it was a college. That's terrible.
How's that even possible, to wear a shirt?
Maybe like you just picked it up for the style of the purple and gold
at the thrift store. I mean,
yeah, I don't know.
What?
That's bizarre.
I don't know, but I couldn't live in a place where they don't know about college football. And talking about college football, while we're realigning, we'll jump to realigning. Unless you guys have anything else to talk about for fall camp here at Georgia, it's kind of, I saw where Javon Bullard talked about the hit and how he had moved on from it.
What's there to move on from? I mean, it was a hit. It was football. I guess he got criticized by the Ohio State fans who wanted a penalty.
But
what's there to move on from?
There were angles that showed that was clearly not a targeting.
But I guess what I'm getting at is he told everybody, like, look, I've moved on from it. Why hasn't everybody else?
It's a new season. It's a new season because are people still going to be talking about Tyler Simmons and some of the infamous Georgia games? No, they don't care anymore. You know what? I'm happy, though, that we've moved. I feel like finally they've moved on from the Fromm Fields thing. I feel blessed that that's over.
Because that at least ended in 2021 when,
at least ended then
the national title.
I'm like, can there not be threads on it once a week when this has not been a situation for a couple years? Like, can we stop that? And it finally stopped. So I feel so blessed that is over.
Somebody said Harrison's still illegal. Harrison's still asleep. I don't know why I said illegal. Oh, Andy's
because of the illegal one. Yeah. There's a comment there.
Christy said they bought that shirt from Goodwill. Andy said, you see the official said it was illegal. Yeah, I saw that. I mean, also that official might have been just trying to get his name out there too. Whatever. Like Georgia fans did with Tyler Simmons was onside, Ben, because you bring that up. And they're still doing it. I mean, right on point right there. You see it. Lucky man. Says Tyler Simmons was onside. You're going to have Ohio State fans say it was an illegal hit for, how long ago was that for Tyler Simmons? What?
17 season. Yeah.
6-7 years. People are still saying that.
Which it really was. It really was a false start before that. Or off. Was it off? It would have been a false start. The two guys moved before the snap on Alabama.
Also, I hate
all that either.
I hate the injury excuses when the one team that wins also has injuries. Like, do people ever bring up the point that Nolan Smith did not play versus Ohio State, that Darnell Washington was out the second play, that George Pickens played half the amount of snaps as Jameson Williams in the national championship game and had within 15 yards of him at that point? And then you also had Adam Anderson was their best pass rusher. He was out. Tyke was your nickel. He was out. Then you had Brinney was the nickel most of the year. He was benched. So over 200 yards was accounted to a third-string nickel in the SEC championship game. Nobody brings up those points. I'm not saying it's a
You sound
thing.
exactly like how the Ohio State fans are going to sound.
No, but here's the
Marvin
thing, though.
Harrison.
Nobody brought those up. Did you ever hear that get brought up?
No.
No, especially in the media. It never got brought up. It always does with the losing team. So when Nick Foles beats Tom Brady in a Super Bowl, I mean, he beat him. We had Big Dick Nick. I'm sorry for saying that. Beat Tom Brady in a Super Bowl. So like injuries happen, and even sometimes the team that's injured prevails. I mean, Georgia was just as injured as Alabama and prevailed, and they had injuries going into Ohio State. Ladd McConkey didn't even have a hamstring and was playing against Ohio State.
But he had a donkey, though. He had a donkey. Joshua Hammond says, hello, gents. Stuck in the ATL airport for 8 hours. That's terrible.
I'm sorry, man.
Andy says, but there was clear tape that shows Simmons was on. I get it, Andy. I get it. People are going to say there's clear tape that it was an illegal hit. This isn't going away is what I'm getting at. Javon Bullard, I think, wants it to go away.
All right. I mean, Javon Bullard wants it to go away. I don't think Javon Bullard should care. I mean,
I don't think so either. But he's going to get questions asked like he did. That's what.
But you look at that play, and I think it's going to be subjective. You're going to have fans of each team are going to say one thing, and then you're going to have neutral observers who are also going to disagree. Tyler Simmons, you can't disagree with at all whatsoever. Fundamentally, he was on sides.
I know. I'm just telling you.
I know what you mean, though. The people are going to continue to harp on that because they lost.
Yeah,
because their team lost. Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. But
Dogfather says that big official that talked out probably went to Buford. That's pretty funny. That was if you guys missed it, KJ Bolden decided to commit to Florida State University. We had heard that Georgia was in it. We had heard that Auburn was making a push, which they did. And then later, so he announced Saturday, 7:30. Later in the day on Saturday afternoon, we had heard Georgia felt like they were in a pretty good spot, but Florida State came in with a bigger NIL deal and kind of sealed the deal there. Ben, I see you holding your finger up.
Yeah, I have a question. So was the first commitment like the live reaction? Was that the first one you've been on all year?
Live reaction commit watch?
Yeah, for the one with KJ Bowman. Was that the first one you did with Roddy all year?
I don't know. Probably. I've done plenty of them in the past, though.
Well, that explains why Georgia didn't get him. I mean, didn't you go to that 2021 season? Wait a minute. Also, I have fact specs up. The 2021 season, we sent Paul to one game. It's the SEC championship game. Is that fact? I only speak in facts. I only do. And that happened, and Georgia lost. They can blame you. They had to the first commitment watch along Georgia doesn't get a 5-star. Or a commit, I mean. Usually we feel confident that Georgia's going to end up landing them. So we do the stream. He chooses Florida State, and then we have Paul going. And it says he was on the stream.
Wow.
If Roddy just did it with Jed, or Roddy did it by himself, or with me or Jason or somebody, he probably would have committed to Georgia. He's like, this bum.
Balls the jinx.
Hey, might be. Let's move on from that because I don't know if that's the case. I mean, I have no control over his NIL deals.
Paul's a Buford asset per sources.
Hey, look, there was the vault was going crazy on UGA Sports.
There's not a high school hated by
there's not
a group of fan base more than Buford. Like now that vault, like when I check the vault, it's like there's 6 threads about Buford.
What's crazy is I live 10 minutes from the school too. It's a beautiful campus. Beautiful.
It's better than some colleges.
Oh yeah, they got some nice facilities there.
But everybody's
like, basketball court they have. I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah, well, it's a basketball arena. I mean, it's not just it's a full on arena. You could host college games in there.
Yeah. And basketball is one of the sports they're worst at, and they did that.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. But Jermaine King says he's been on every Buford player's commitment video. All right, Jermaine, don't get yourself kicked out of here, Jermaine. But no,
Paul filmed Kane's video.
Yeah, what I was getting at was though folks are calling for Raiola to transfer out of Buford. That's not going to happen. So, Chrissy says, "Who's the guy that committed today?" Real quick, Ben, who is he? Give me a Reader's Digest on him.
That is Nate Frazier, the #1 all-purpose back out of California, out of Mater Dei High School.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, Christy, go check him out. He's pretty good. Let's bring Eddie on first. What up, Big Eddie?
Hey, boys. How are y'all?
Oh,
Can
there
you
you
hear
are.
me okay?
Yeah, we got you.
All right, now he's good. He was glitchy for a second.
Yeah. I see you got the 65-7
Am I
shirt
good?
on. It's a nice shirt there.
I love this shirt because people just, you know it when you see it. If you know, you know, right?
Yeah, maybe go wear that in California and see how many people don't know what shirt you're wearing, because apparently somebody had an LSU shirt on and didn't know that either. Eddie, how was your weekend,
Makes
my
no
man?
sense. Good. I have to tell you guys, and I think the kids call it old AF or old AF, which is what I am. So two
AF.
things
Yeah.
for me, guys. Yeah, AF. Okay. My youngest baby, I say baby, he's 6'5", 250, if you want to call him a baby. He's heading off to college, so we're going to be empty nesters on Wednesday, starting Wednesday. And tomorrow, guys, and I don't know how old you are, Ben. You look like you're younger than this age. I will have been married to my wife, loving wife, who's upstairs, allowing me to do this for 30 years. We met in college
Wow.
at Georgia.
Congratulations.
We've been married 30 years. Yeah,
Congratulations, man.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
pretty
That's
amazing.
good. So you're going to have the empty
And
nest.
time
so,
goes by like that.
So you looking forward to the empty nest there?
No, not at all.
No?
I like having my boys around. It is what
Well,
it is, though. They have
Ben
to move on
is
and
trying to
go on out to
relocate.
the real world.
Ben is trying to relocate from Baltimore down to the area. So if you have a room available, maybe you guys can link up after the
Yep.
show and discuss that.
Where I'm sitting right now, we got plenty of room, Ben. You can come down, and we
There you
don't
go,
have
Ben.
wood-paneled walls or an aquarium, but you can come down
Yeah.
here. So,
you have to adjust the drywall, Ben, but
yeah,
But Southern food is better than up. Dude, I don't know what Jason's opinions are, because I hate the crabs up here, dude. People are just obsessed over. I'm like, no. I'm
mean,
not into
I
the
was-
Maryland food.
I was thinking something else there, Ben, but all right.
Oh,
Hey, I do want to say, Jason, I'm glad you're better.
Yeah, thanks.
That sounded awful. I mean, I'm on my second shot to get rid of those things. So my grandfather dealt with those.
Oh,
It's awful, and I can't imagine it being in your eye. I mean, that just
So
sounds
you-
like absolute.
Oh,
horror.
it was the most painful thing. I mean, I
Oh
was
my
fortunate.
gosh.
It was the most painful thing I've ever experienced. Thankfully, the virus didn't get in it, because, like, if it gets actually in your eyeball, it can create vision loss. And so,
It is.
thankfully, it didn't go all the way. But yeah, it was. You can still kind of see it. See, like little.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
gosh,
it looks like
yeah.
mosquito bites right
Jeez.
now. That's why I got the hat on. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Right,
but
and
it's
too,
it's
the
good. It's
hat.
all falling off.
I
It's
know
all
what-
falling. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Oh,
And
it's
two,
the
the
master of
hat,
the gift.
I love your hat, but it drives me crazy. Every time I look at your hat, I think it's a New York Jets hat. That's what it looks like when you
Really?
glance at it. I
No,
think
that's a
New
Masters
York
the
hat,
Jets.
Masters?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought it was
Just the color. I know what it is. But at a glance, I'm like Jets hat, and then it's
Yeah,
we
no.
do have
I know
we do have an
exactly.
update here, guys. The LSU shirt guy said he
Oh,
quote
he did.
thrifted it, but I also had the same thing happen with a guy in a Clemson hat. Also, I'm a former UGA cheerleader. Go Dogs! Hey, you're a big guy.
nice.
Yeah, congrats to you, man. I was never.
Oh yeah, I knew a girl who wore a Clemson shirt like every day and never knew what Clemson was. So that's another one.
I don't understand.
Clemson's popularly unpopular.
I love how I'm not going to put it up here, guys, but we've gotten Chrissy has asked who's the oldest in the chat, and she's congratulating you there, Eddie. And then,
No, JT's older than me. Dogfather's older than me, I think.
and then Muschamp's reading glasses just goes, Chrissy, I'm sure you're hot. So that's where this chat's going tonight, guys. So no, I want to talk about conference realignment though, Eddie. I was on vacation last week, and man, what has happened? The Big 10 is now the Big 18. The ACC seems to just be standing pat, but maybe adding more. This all happened within 48 hours, guys, 72 hours. I mean, there were schools jumping around. The Big 12 now has, I don't even know, 4, 8, 12. They have 16.
Oh, Big 12. Sorry.
Yeah. And then the Pac-12
Pac-12
has 4.
Yeah.
What's happening to college football, Eddie, from a fan's perspective?
Well, so it is the Pac-4 now. Is that what we're going to deal with?
I think the Pac-12 is going to be long gone here.
It's going to be the Mountain
Okay.
West.
No, the top two out of the Pac-4 are going to play in the Rose Bowl.
Mm.
You know, it'll be a great.
How are they going to redo that?
Stretch.
Yeah, they're going to have to. But
No.
I think
the Rose Bowl's in
Yeah,
the
I don't
playoff
know.
now, though.
What a
That was
mess.
going to change.
but
Yeah, but
I'm
when it's
sure-
not in the playoff, it's
Yeah,
still
well-
Big Ten, Pac-12. Not anymore.
Right.
Anyway, not anymore.
Exactly.
But I'm sure the playoff wants
Well,
the Rose
you know-
Bowl. They can get it now.
Yeah.
Oh, it'll have to be it'll just have to be. They'll have to redo the when it's not in the playoff cycle that year. Well, I mean, I guess it would be right anyway. It's going to expand. I don't know what we're talking about here. It's going to be in the playoff no matter what.
Right.
So all that stuff's out the window whenever they configure.
All this is obviously football driven, right? Because that's what makes everything happen. But I think it was Eli Drinkwitz that brought this up. This is a great point. What's going to happen with girls softball, lacrosse, et cetera, where they're going to have to travel from Oregon all the way across to, I don't know, Maine or whatever to play another team? That is just not feasible when you think about those kinds of things. I don't know how that's going to shake out. It's absolutely nuts what is going on.
It could be because the whole reason the teams want to move, the whole reason Colorado wants to go back to the Big 12, the whole reason why USC, UCLA did last year, and Oregon and Washington now to the Big Ten is for the TV revenue. So they can, the SEC right now, they can pay everybody to go across the country and do whatever. So that's really why you have the Big 18 now. The SEC's got 16, and the Big 12 and the ACC basically have to fight out the rest of the revenue sharing for TV rights, and the Pac-12 is just kind of left in the dust. They're the ones you feel sorry for when it comes to the Pac-12. I think Cal and Stanford will figure it out somehow, some way, whether it's Big Ten or
they might go independent.
And I think Cal and Stanford can both go independent. Oregon State and Washington State. If you were going back to your point, Eddie, if you're a women's college athlete and you're at one of those two schools and you came there to play Pac-12 athletics at that high level, especially in softball and some of the other sports that the Pac-12's swimming historically good at, women's basketball. You're done. I mean, I don't know what. Yeah. There's no conference that is going to want either of those programs, given how big 16, 18, 14, 16, the sizes. I mean, why would they need to take on programs from Corvallis and Pullman? They're just not.
Here's the thing, though, guys. Here's the big thing. Andy makes my point for me. Rutgers to Southern Cal midweek baseball game. I get what you're saying, Jason, and saying that, they now have extra money with these TV rights deals, but that's a long trip. Like, I don't know how far that is. I'll do some research while you guys talk about it, but from New York to Los Angeles, what's the time on that flight?
Probably 5-6 hours.
Yeah. And you're doing that midweek while you're trying to.
I don't know if you guys.
For baseball, it wouldn't be midweek. Baseball, in conference series are weekends.
And I don't know if you guys know this, but with NIL, it's and not to mention all of college athletics is kind of a charade anyway when it comes to education. I mean, if we're calling it how it is. Yes, there are college athletes who do take advantage of the educational opportunities, but college athletics itself is not stood up to benefit these people athletically.
Yeah, they're student athletes, though. They're student athletes. That's what they're called right now.
Yeah, sure. That's what they're called. I mean, but are they? I mean, is the whole thing has been kind of a farce, and the players are just now having the opportunity to make money for the work that they put in.
Flight time, New York to LA, 5 hours, 56 minutes. Flight time from LA, miles from New York to LA, 2,475. So 6 hour flight. There and back for even it, like Ben said, even if it's just a weekend series, that's a really long time. And like Eli Drinkwitz said, football will be fine. There's nothing that's going to happen to football. They fly in, they leave, they come in on certain days anyway. It doesn't matter if they're flying across the country or not. They get to fly on charter planes. These other teams fly commercial. You see them in Hartsfield Jackson all the time, boarding up women's softball to go play whoever. It's tough, man. It's tough. And Jamie said all about the money.
It's everything now. You look at some of the coaches, like it just still boggles my mind that you see like Notre Dame head coach leaving for another job, an Oklahoma coach leaving for another job. We have these teams, Texas and Oklahoma and USC and UCLA leaving for other conferences. It still just boggles my mind because it's all for money. Because and you know what? I understand it. I understand it from their perspective. They're trying to profit. And you look at some of these leagues, they're going to be devalued. When they come across this playoff format, I don't know if it's been nailed in or not. You guys could tell me because I know it's going to be a 12-team playoff. But how are you going to do – because I thought it was going to be 6 conferences.
Yeah, they're going to have to change
that. They have to rethink it, yeah.
You have to rethink that because how are you going to put – okay, you want to put one like a Mount West or some team like in one of those conferences gets an automatic bid, fine. But it's got to be cut to like if the ACC withholds and the Big 12, I guess you can throw them in there. It would have to be 4 at this point and then maybe an at-large. You can't give 6 at-larges who win their conference in there at that point. Because are we going to put the AAC and the Mountain West winner both in a college football playoff? That would not do well. The viewership would not do well for those games. That really counteracts everything that they're trying to do with the playoff and parity and getting better quality games and spreading the talent when you have people from USF and then you get a team from the Mountain West getting in the playoff. I don't think that's profitable. Because in basketball, you can win in the March Madness. That's why I says basketball is going to be fine. As long as some of those rivalries stay in season, basketball is fine in terms of the games we see. But in college football, I still hope we
get – be crazy, Ben. They're flying in to play one game, and they're flying right back out. That's going to – you talk about some jet lag. Let's wait till we see those schedules in 2024 where USC ends up playing their away games. Basketball, yes, you're right. In a financial standpoint, we'll be fine. But there's going to be times, I guarantee you, where USC, UCLA are just going to stay on the East Coast for probably 2 weeks and just play 4 games.
Well, that's why I think.
Go ahead, Ben. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think the Big 12's fine because I still think they're a competent football conference, and their basketball conference is the best. They got Arizona. They got all these basketball powers.
Right.
When you look at some of these, the ACC, I think, what's interesting for the future of this is Notre Dame. NBC's got to deal with the Big Ten now. Notre Dame as an exclusive brand by itself, I think, isn't as valuable, especially when your coach tells you, I'm the winningest coach in program history and I'm going to go to an SEC school. What does that say about Notre Dame? So I think Notre Dame's the big school that no one knows because there were rumors about Clemson and Florida State going to the Big Ten, which I think if that happens, you can say the Big Ten is as good of a football conference as the SEC if they get those two with Oregon, Washington, USC, UCLA. You could say they're as good and deep of a conference as the SEC if they get Clemson, Florida State. But nobody's talking about Notre Dame because remember last year, everyone was like, what's Notre Dame going to do? That's what I'm curious because at some point, I think by next year, you're going to hear something about Notre Dame. They can't stay independent for too long because their value as a lone brand is going to go down. And then the money, some of these conferences and the TV deals with the mass of these teams is just going to continue to go up because the only thing that's profitable on live TV is sports, especially football. Notre Dame's going to be interesting because I think them in the SEC will be very fascinating.
What were you about to say, Eddie?
Well, I was just going to say the expansion of these conferences, you know what's going to happen. We all want expanded playoffs. It's going to be playoffs to win the conference. That's what's going to happen. We're going to get these massive conferences, and we're going to have a playoff to determine the winner of a conference and then go to the playoffs. That's what's coming.
I mean, you look at the Big Ten because, as you said, Ben, if Clemson and Florida State hypothetically left, that's a 20-team conference.
Right.
I mean, that might as well be its own league. You're almost to the NFL number. I mean, you only need 12 more. Might as well merge with the ACC at that point and just create NFL, a minor league NFL system. Just have a schedule, just do it like that. It's crazy to see the Big Ten get this big this quickly, and that's huge. But the thing with football is you have 18 teams. How is that scheduling going to look? I mean, you're essentially going to probably still have division. Maybe you have more than 2 divisions at that point, and you just stick to these teams in your area, and you don't even travel. And then, like you said, Eddie, then you have to have a playoff. You cut the season down because you have to have these playoff games for those, or maybe you don't because you're not going to lose the revenue for the game. But you're going to see this season lengthen out even more if these conferences keep growing at that rate. I think that's an excellent point. I mean, 18 teams, 20 teams possibly. I mean, it's wild.
How many games could we I think we're all kind of talking this up, and we're getting to, I think, the final point here of this is, with this many teams, the schedule has to lengthen, which that's what TV wants. They want more games, because more games equals more revenue, which then the schools want that, because they're then getting the revenue from the TV.
Or shorten the season and add those playoff games like Jason was talking about.
Yeah, and I said that, and then immediately was like, they're not. I mean, no, they're not. The NFL continues to, the player safety concern in the NFL. They say, we don't care. We're adding a 17th game, and they're going to keep doing that as long as they can get away with it. And I think college football, especially now that they can justify it with players getting NIL deals, I think you're going to see that going in that direction. Just kind of thinking out loud here, because that would make more sense. You're not going to decrease games, but if you can say, well, the players are getting paid now, so I mean, we can give them more games.
But you're not. Yes, you're decreasing the regular season, but you're increasing the playoffs.
Well, not for every team, but not for every team.
You're not getting every team.
I understand that, but I mean, those games are more valuable than a regular season game, I would think. But I know what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
You get 7 or 8 regular season games, 1 bowl game. You're going to get more revenue from the 7 or 8 than you would 1 bowl. Go ahead, Ben.
You know what the TV companies want? I was listening to someone talking the other day about what's the problem with baseball is that people wish the baseball playoff, he said, in August, where all the attention would be there, versus October when college football's ramped up. Like Georgia was, I think, playing Florida when your Braves were in the World Series, and a lot of people just like college football, and that takes away from them. The companies in August, they would want more college football in August. They would want the season to start sooner, because then you don't have some, like in the summertime, you see the ESPNs and Fox and all them. They don't have anything to talk about in terms of sports. College football would get bigger in terms, there'd be more people talking about it if it started earlier in August, because the other NFL hasn't started yet. So you get all that time to start talking about that. You have the more conferences. I think that would be where they want to go, because they would get more TV time. One, that the companies want more games, and they want that earlier on, because like I said, August, July is when they're the most dead, because baseball is a sport going on, and it's a regional sport. Like everyone, you guys can see the Braves, but you guys can't see, like I'm up here with the Orioles. Me and Jason can see them, but we can't see the Braves because it's a regional sport. For college football, it's a national sport. They want that stuff in August, because now if you turn on ESPN or Fox, you're getting like power slap leagues and stuff like that. You get football earlier on in August, and you get more talking on national TV. That's what they want for the money, because
but
money. So doesn't that start the season earlier, because August right now is kind of a dead month for them.
But doesn't that cut into their time to talk about LeBron James and Aaron Rodgers? I mean, they don't want to do that.
Yeah, I guess it would. But I mean, to Ben's point, I was watching ESPN today. It was the regional matchup. It wasn't even an elimination game. It was on ESPN, Little League World Series, of some team from Louisiana versus the Western Texas team. It was not even an elimination game. It was on the primetime ESPN spot. So yes, I think that would be huge. Andy brings up a big point, though. The heat would be brutal. Yeah, you have to find a way to kind of get around that. But,
I say Columbia is a cheat code. You think it's the hottest thing to ever exist? Yeah. Columbia, South Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, Columbia would be brutal right now to like play a game. Oh my God.
Just go play in hell. Play in hell.
Yeah. I mean, you might as well. But I think, we're kind of getting to that. We're kind of getting to that point.
I think you go the other side. You're playing. I mean, I don't think you could play in August. I mean, you can't justify that in these southern states.
It's hot.
That's what the TV wants, though, Jason.
If you could, but there's just no way. But I still think if you go into December, and instead of having competing with those other low-level bowl games, you could have a lot more. You could add to the schedule in early December. I think that's something that TV companies would definitely love, especially, that way you had regular season NFL, you still had college football, major matchups. You could even spread them out Friday, Saturday, Sunday, maybe not Sunday, maybe Thursday, Friday, Saturday, NFL Sundays. Mm-hmm. And then you get to the bowl season in early January, playoff season, I should say, in early January.
Yeah, but I just wanted to bring that up, guys, because it's quite interesting to me. I wonder, obviously, SEC is bringing in Texas and Oklahoma. If they're done adding, it's all speculation now, but FSU wants to get out I saw where JP Morgan, I think Andy put it in the chat too. JP Morgan is backing them to kind of get them out of the ACC. Clemson would be a good ad. I'm just kind of looking at these ACC teams. UNC would be a decent ad if you're, basketball related. They have some decent football teams too. Maybe Virginia Tech to get that Virginia market.
You'd want Virginia over Virginia Tech.
Either one, right?
North Carolina's interesting.
Charlotte's
I think North Carolina's interesting. They're good academics and they can be competitive in multiple sports.
I just don't know. I don't think outside of I've obviously heard all the stuff about Florida State, but I don't know if it makes sense it doesn't really make sense right now for the ACC teams to panic and leave and join these conglomerates.
Well, it's
what happens to Tech? What happens to Georgia Tech?
Georgia Tech, Ben. I know you're laughing because I thought about that too.
That's your school. I know you have a lot of friends and family. They're Tech people.
I do have some family that went to Tech, yeah, but and I know you're kidding, but that's funny how you brought that up.
I'm not kidding.
The Tech is a huge market in the sense that it's the Atlanta market.
But Atlanta folks don't care.
They suck.
But it's not
bad,
just
though, Paul.
Look. Listen, Linda. It's not just the Atlanta market. It's the Metro Atlanta market. You can get teams. You can get games.
Jason's right. They do not care.
Those people care about Georgia.
I know
they care about Georgia. You're not getting the market with Georgia Tech. Georgia owns the market. You're not getting anything with Tech.
They're just an engineering school.
I'm not talking about the school. I'm talking about this. Like if the Big were to take them, the Big now has a footprint in Atlanta to where you get to watch big.
Wait, who do you want to take them? The Big Ten?
You already can watch the Big Ten down here. You get every Big Ten game you want, and they don't need it. You already see
Big Ten and the SEC are everywhere. Nobody wants Georgia Tech, Paul. The Big 12 is not want Georgia Tech. Paul, when was the last time they made a bowl? When was the last time they made a bowl?
It doesn't matter, Ben. It doesn't matter. It's the Atlanta market.
Nothing. Paul,
but those Thursday night games with the city in the background, that's so awesome, isn't it? Come on.
Hey, somebody wants that market, Eddie.
In
my gosh.
If you would have told me Duke, I would be like, okay, Duke in basketball is the biggest conglomerate. And, in football, they had Danny Dimes. In recent memory, they had Danny Dimes. They're a good academic institution. Duke is something that's interesting. Georgia Tech is a joke.
But I get what Paul's saying. He's saying, well, Atlanta, it's a big city. The thing is, you have to have people who care. You have to have people who are interested.
You have people.
Georgia Southern might be on par with Tech.
He's not wrong. That's the crazy part.
They're on par. And I'm not saying this as I am laughing, but it's true.
Look, it gets them in the market. And then like JT Thompson said right here, lots of folks who live in Atlanta graduated from a big school. I know a ton of people that graduated.
They probably went to Buford, Paul. They probably went to Buford.
You can't watch the Big down here. You can't watch the Big Ten Network down here unless you buy it, Jason.
It's on every sports package.
Nobody buys sports packages anymore.
I get
it's on streaming. I have Hulu. You get the Big Ten Network on Hulu. You can get that anywhere in the country. It doesn't matter where you are.
Big Ten everywhere.
Big Ten Network.
You're only getting. I don't get it down here on my Hulu. You're only getting it because you have.
You're
I'm trying to find a school that's close to you.
Because you don't have the sports package. You have to do little add-ons.
You're an intern for 10 plus years.
This is what I'm talking about right here. Jermaine King. He's talking about the TV markets. Yes, the opponents will get more TV exposure because of the larger market. That's what I'm talking about. Golly, do you guys know anything? I went to school for this shit. You guys know anything about TV markets?
I know. I get what you're saying. But nobody, and those other conferences need Georgia Tech to get the Atlanta market. You don't need Georgia Tech. No, they don't.
Okay, we'll see.
Wait, isn't Clay?
I feel like every major program trying to get exposure and recruit in the Atlanta and in the South and in Georgia, they already do. Ohio State already recruits really well down there. You think getting Georgia Tech in the Big Ten, Illinois is now going to be able to recruit because their game is now Georgia Tech is now being shown in some other city or state or whatever. That's ridiculous.
What's Georgia State called? The Blue Panthers? The Blue Panthers are a bigger sell. Think about this. Does anyone know Michigan Tech? They know Michigan State. They know Michigan State. They might know Georgia. You could just say Georgia State. Georgia State sounds better. And guess what? They're not just a tech school where most of the kids can't get into it. Look at all these elite recruits. I guarantee you in the top 100. 90% of them don't want to be engineers, so they're not going to go to Tech anyway. No, but Tech is so limited, Paul. They're limited in who can they. If your math score isn't at a certain rate, they can't take you. They used to be in the SEC.
Look,
that was
this
the
is
That's a
dumbest
great
realignment
point.
move in
Ben's
history.
right. Georgia State has a bigger following in Atlanta than Georgia Tech does. That's a great
this
point.
is, Andy's backing me up here. Michigan plays Tech in Atlanta. That's the pull for the big to get. Like, I don't know how else to explain this to you guys.
Why a recruit's going to go? No,
You can't
because it's not
you're
in
wrong.
the big house, Paul. So you're saying they're going out to. It does not matter. Tech is a barren wasteland at this point.
Okay, you tell it to the TV execs. You tell it to the TV execs.
Paul,
Honestly,
why has nobody talked? So I even see West Virginia getting talked about going to the ACC. I don't see. Has anybody here heard anything about Tech? One of these.
Nope.
Not to mention, they tried to get back in the SEC
Nobody.
not long ago, and the SEC never wanted them back. They
SEC doesn't need them. They have the
should
market.
not. That's the problem.
That's
That's
the point.
The
They
SEC,
had them.
they had them and they left, and then they were like, "Oops, sorry guys, we want back." And they said, "Nah, you guys are a joke."
All right,
See, there's no poll. There's no poll. Okay, I see what Andy's saying. Yes, there's a ton of Michigan alums in Atlanta. That'd be half the stadium. It's half the stadium for when Georgia comes. I get all that. TV exec, that doesn't matter. That's not a TV thing.
They should have been.
That's a local big city that has a big alumni base. Sure, Michigan might enjoy that. That has nothing to do with the overall theme that you're saying, getting into another market. You get Georgia to switch conferences if you want that market to be able to pull more eyeballs onto your conference. And that's obviously not happening.
Also, if they get Florida State and Clemson, they're basically, if the Big Ten did, they'd be down in the South. I mean, the Big 12's already in Florida. They're already in Florida. Like, they're already in all these southern
Why do you
states.
think they took that team from Florida, Benjamin?
UCF is a
They could have
respectable
taken
college
Georgia Tech.
program.
Why didn't they go
They're
after
a good
Georgia Tech?
program. They are the national champions of the 2018 or 2017 season. They're the true national champions of that season, Paul.
Paul,
And
why
you're
didn't
trying
they
to take
take
a
Georgia
national
Tech?
championship program
No,
and say the Big 12 doesn't take it?
because you can't take ACC teams right now. The buyout's too big.
Oh, is that it? Oh, really?
Oh my gosh.
That's it.
Are
So
you
no,
kidding
no.
me?
That's
Paul.
what I've heard. That's what I've heard.
Paul, they should. You know what they should do?
I think
Tech should
Paul's
just
got
totally
a
change their
Brent
plan.
man crush. That's what I think.
No, it's not even about football, Eduardo. It is about the TV market.
They're
That's
horrific at everything else.
You have to own the TV market to be able to be relevant in that TV market to go somewhere.
Paul,
They
already
have no
Southern
pull in the
states.
market.
They already have Southern states in like all those conferences at this point. If you're the Big Ten, are you taking Tech? No.
What did you say earlier? Florida State, Clemson? Clemson! You talk about a Southern market, right? Clemson, South Carolina does not control the state of South Carolina, but the Big
Clemson's
Ten
an
wants
hour
that.
and a half or so. What from Atlanta? It's if you get Clemson, you get a two-time
Tech would be-
championship program.
Tech would have been in the
And
Big
you
Ten
get the
by now
market.
if anybody wanted them.
The
Paul.
ACC's got some big fees to get out, guys. We'll see what happens when
Paul,
those fees
they
go.
ran the triple option. They should be a glorified military. They should not have engineers. They should just have it should be a military school of Georgia. This is where we're putting all of our military men and women into this school.
Army
This
of
is
the
what we're gonna
South.
do. If you run the triple option, that's where you should be. You should be a military school. If you
This
run
is
the
where we're
triple
putting
option,
all of
you're
our
not a
military men and
school,
women. You heard it
should
here
be
from Ben
abolished.
Bachman first, guys. This is where we're putting all our military men and women down on the trade school. And
If you run the triple option, that should be a rule. You have to be a military school to be allowed to run the triple option.
look, I think, yeah, Foster said this is an ACC call-in show now. No, guys, I think what I'm
Probably
getting
gets
at.
better viewers than an ACC
Look,
call. show at
but
this point.
this is the talk now because these conferences are getting so big. You have these talks, and I love playing a little devil's advocate here and there. It riles up the crowd, if you will. Maybe I was being for real, maybe I wasn't. You'll never know.
Oh, no, you're not walking
Yeah,
this
now
back.
he's going
I'm not
back.
letting you
Yeah.
walk this
Yeah.
one back.
Yeah. I was just kidding.
Oh man, no, but somebody has to play that role. So I'm glad I'm here for you guys to do just that, guys. Before we get out of here, we got about 5 minutes left. Anything you want to talk about, Eddie?
Yeah, you guys brought it up before I got on the show about all the whining that's going on with Ohio State, and by the way, that includes Ryan Day, who's been talking about that hit with Javon Bullard. It's not like Kirby Smart ever talked about that Tyler Simmons play. The head coach is still talking about that. Well, I want to go back two things. Everybody talks about Mechie and Williams got hurt, and that's why Georgia won the national championship. Nobody ever talks about Colt McCoy going out in the first play of the game and Bama wins a national championship because of that. Nobody ever brings that up. And Ohio State, too, was gifted, in my opinion, a national championship against Miami for a phantom interference call. And that's never brought up, okay? But let's talk about Javon Bullard made a good hit against my player and knocked him out, and that's the reason Georgia won. And Mechie and Williams were hurt against Alabama, and that's the reason Georgia won. Screw all that. Sorry. It goes both ways.
You know, it's interesting. They always fail to point out that play was reviewed and what reversed. So, it's kind of, I mean, I guess, it's in the eye of the beholder, right? I mean, if you're going to have people who are going to disagree with that kind of a play, especially when it's their school. And like I said earlier, you're going to have neutral observers who are going to say one thing and others who are going to say the other thing. That kind of play, you're never going to have full agreement. But in real time, they reviewed that play and they ruled it away. And I think you have enough people who do see that rationally and say that it turned out to be the right call. It's a bang-bang play. You hate that the kid got injured and ended up with a concussion and had to leave the game. But that's the nature of the game that they play. And
but you can't play both sides of the fence.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You can't whine about this and then ignore what happened against Miami. Okay, that's my point.
And the injury excuse works both ways. Georgia was literally hurt. I brought this up. Yeah, I'm looking at it now. So Jameson Williams, George Pickens played in under 10 snaps, had 52 receiving yards. Jameson Williams played in more than double, had 65. He only had 10 more yards in him, and he played in more than double the amount of snaps. And prior to the year, George Pickens was the number one wide receiver before he tore his ACL in the draft. Mm-hmm. And I would argue he's a better player than Jameson Williams. He was hurt. Nobody brought that up. He played less than him. Adam Anderson was their best pass rusher and was at that point projected by Mel Kiper to be the first Georgia player taken. He did not play their last, 5 or 6 games. You have Tyke Smith, who you brought in as an All-American, was a projected second-round pick. Yep. He was out. Brenny, like I said, was out. And then this past year, Darnell Washington, who you run your offense through, went out on the first drive. And you had Nolan Smith, a first-round pick edge rusher. Once again, your best edge rusher. He's out. And how did Ohio State score as much? Contain. C.J. Stroud got out of the pocket. Nolan Smith's the best at doing that in the country. So no one will ever bring up that for the winning team. It's kind of like I said, like when the Eagles won with literally a backup quarterback in the Super Bowl, nobody talked about that he was a backup. They were like, oh, Nick's now a starting quarterback in the NFL. He's got to go to the Bears. Nobody brought that up, so I don't understand why that's never brought up. This team's injured. No, we're just going to talk about the losing team had injuries. I don't like that.
Everybody's injured. I do want to end the show, guys, with saying you guys know of athlonsports.com, right? You've seen their magazines, right?
I just bought it.
Yeah, everybody buys that magazine. It's the preseason mag, right? Just wanted to say they have in here Georgia Tech's location in Atlanta would be another reason for the Big Ten to expand and add a team in fertile recruiting territory.
Hey,
is this an outlet that you own or something?
Hey, I love them, but it would have happened by now. Are you kidding me?
Jason wants that because he wanted who's his favorite coach of all time?
Jeff Collins.
The Waffle House team.
Yeah,
the Waffle House.
I'm just saying, guys, I'm not the only one thinking it. But guys, join us next week as we have some more UGA fall camp. No more Georgia Tech talk next week. I promise you that. I will not bring them up.
Darn it.
Yeah, I know that's what a lot of you guys are watching for. But, thank you, Andy. Drop that mic. Indeed. Yeah. It's funny how that works, Jason. You bought the magazine, but then you don't want to watch the website.
Hey, I am here. I am not somebody who is going to be upset or angry. I just disagree, but I still think it's a quality publication. I get it every year.
Yeah. Well, I think this is a quality publication too, and everybody gets it every week. You don't have to wait all year to get it. You get it every week. So guys, before you leave, make sure you hit that like button. It shows my boss, Ryan Nabolsi. that he should still employ me. So that helps out a ton. And we're going to have this up on the podcast. So for your Monday morning commute into work or school, wherever you're headed off to, we'll have it up for you so you can take a listen. For Eddie from Ackworth, Ben Choppy Bachman, and Jason B-U-T-T, I'm Paul Meharry. We appreciate you guys so much. We'll see you next Sunday, 7:30. Peace.